time now for the latest business news, and for that I'm joined in the studio by Catherine Bennett. Hello, Catherine.
Hiya.
And French President Emmanuel Macron this week is hosting two summits with African leaders and chiefs of global financial institutions, hoping to effectively shore up sort of financial investment to help African economies recover from the pandemic.
That's absolutely right. And the conference today is all about Sudan. French Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire announced on Monday that France would lend the country $1.5 billion to help it pay off its $60 billion foreign debt bill. IMF members are expected to also cover $1.3 billion in arrears. Emerald Maxwell has this report.
With inflation running at more than 340% in Sudan, it's getting harder and harder for this mother to put food on the table.
Water, electricity, and school fees are expensive. Life is hard, and every time I go to the market, I find that prices have increased.
She's one of millions of Sudanese struggling through an economic crisis that's deepened as the country tries to emerge from decades of isolation and conflict. The government has removed subsidies such as for flour and fuel to comply with IMF demands in exchange for debt relief. A colossal debt that amounts to over $60 billion, 200% of the country's GDP. 2 years after the revolution that led to the fall of Omar al-Bashir, Washington's removed Sudan from its blacklist of state sponsors of terrorism, lifting a major hurdle to foreign investment. That's exactly what the Sudanese Prime Minister is hoping to secure at the Summit for African Economies in Paris.
We are going to the Paris conference to let foreign investors explore the opportunities for investing in Sudan. We aren't looking for grants or donations. Our citizens must know that we are going to showcase the return of a strong and deserving Sudan to the international development community.
Accompanied by 8 members of his government, the Prime Minister has planned meetings with companies in the energy and communications sectors. With some 24 African heads of state due to attend, it will be one of the biggest in-person summits held during the pandemic.
The world's largest telecommunications company, AT&T, is nearing a huge merger with its rival Discovery. The deal would bring together two of the largest media businesses in the US, creating a media giant with an enterprise value of $150 billion. That's bigger than Netflix or NBC Universal. It would merge AT&T's media business, which includes CNN, HBO and Warner Brothers, with Discovery and its successful streaming service. Such a major transaction could end up triggering a round of media deals as companies try to get bigger and bigger to compete with this new juggernaut, alongside, of course, social media platforms such as Facebook, YouTube or TikTok. China's much vaunted economic recovery appears to be slowing, according to a slew of economic data released on Monday. In April, China's industrial output rose 9.8% year-on-year, in line with expectations, but retail sales rose 17.7%, and that's actually far below predictions, which were around 25% growth. China was the first major economy to start seeing a recovery from the coronavirus pandemic, but while factories remain a big driver of that recovery, it's consumer spending that's lagging behind. We can look and see how markets in Asia were reacting to that data this morning. Chinese stocks, of course, got a boost from that data, with the Shanghai Composite and the Hang Seng Index up over 0.5%. Japan's Nikkei, however, trending downwards at almost 1%, and the Kospi dropping over 0.5%. Over in Europe, stocks had a muted open and then trended downwards during the day's trading. London's FTSE is down 0.6%, while the CAC 40 and Frankfurt's DAX have dropped around 0.33%. Ryanair has posted its biggest ever annual loss after losing 81% of its passenger traffic during the COVID-19 pandemic. The airline reported a net loss of €815 million. That's compared to a net profit of just over €1 billion a year earlier. The company said that 2020 was a very difficult year, but it was optimistic about the recovery of the travel sector after a surge in customer bookings at the end of April. Well, if airlines are hoping for the return of tourists, so of course are southern European countries. Portugal is opening up to visitors from nearly all European countries today after its tourism sector was brought almost to a standstill by the pandemic.
As summer approaches, Europe's beaches are beginning to reopen for business. Portugal is the latest European country to welcome back holidaymakers from much of the continent, as well as from the UK, Portugal's biggest tourism market.
The Algarve is like a second home for them. We know they've been looking forward to being able to visit for a while, so we want them to know that as soon as Portugal opens, they're very welcome here.
All they need is a negative PCR test to show on arrival. Demand for flights from Britain to Portugal has surged as the only EU country on its green list, meaning people won't have to quarantine on their return to the UK. It's a lifeline for Portugal's tourism sector, which accounts for 19% of jobs. In reopening, the country follows hot on the heels of other southern European countries like Croatia, Cyprus and Greece, all of which are heavily tourism dependent. Greece widened its list of approved visitors to people from more than 50 countries, including the US.
I'm finally here. I've been waiting 2 years. 2 years with the COVID. Now it's good.
Greece is hoping this year to claw back half its 2019 visitor level. The sector saw revenues drop to €4 billion last year, less than a quarter of the $18 billion achieved in 2019. The EU Council is expected to announce a review of its safe list of third countries later this week.
Well, it's not just Portugal longing for a summer holiday. I'm desperate for a holiday right about now.
I think we all are. I think we're just, both of us were just looking with such longing at those
images of the beaches. It's gorgeous.
Thanks for that, Catherine Bennett. And that's it for this edition. I'll be back after a short break, so do stay with us here on Fast 24.